Well, shooters and reloaders out there, it's Fortune Cookie 45LC coming to you from the Hot Lead Zone. And today's discussion is about some questions and replies and comments about gunpowder. So many of you know that I had several 1-pound cans of this H110 that I purchased a long time ago, but I didn't use it up that fast because I preferred the 2400 by Hercules Alliant instead. I did most of my Magnum shooting with 2400. Well, when I started running low on 2400, the last can of H110 I put to good use and loaded up some Magnum loads with it. It's a good powder, and so I'm thinking that it would be good to go ahead and get some more H110. Well, I couldn't find any. So what happened was I found some Longshot powder instead. So I ordered a fair number of cans of this Longshot. Well, it turns out that if I had just been a little more patient, that Winchester 296 became available shortly after I purchased the Longshot, and I would have bought the Winchester 296 instead. So the message there is, if you need a certain powder, pistol powders seem to be coming back a little bit. And if you're patient, you'll probably get what you want instead of something that you can use but probably wouldn't have preferred. Now H110, that's H110, not Hogden. H110 Longshot powder is a fine powder. It's slower burning than Alliant number 7, but faster than 2400 or H110. So if you want maximum Magnum velocities, Longshot won't quite get you there, but it'll get you up there close. Now Longshot is a double base powder. By that I mean that in addition to the main ingredient of nitrocellulose, Longshot has nitroglycerin in there. Now nitroglycerin, now we know about that, unstable compound, but it's very powerful and it adds more energy to the gunpowder so that you have better economy, lower charges used. But the downside is nitroglycerin needs to have a stabilizer put in there, and the stabilizer will result in a little more smoke and a little more dirty burning. Most of the powders that we use for pistol flake powders are double base. So this is another one of those, and we're looking forward to using this. The other question is that with powder being in short supply, because it's still short, is it safe to use old powders, like say they're 25, 30 years old even? Is it safe to use that? Because you've heard that some powders can deteriorate and the burning rates will be changed if you use old powder, like it might burn faster. Well, I don't have any problem using old powders because the aroma, the smell of the powder is very important to detect whether it's gone bad or not. If you've stored your powder well in a cool, dry place, so notice that this can is in very good condition, even though it's so old. This is probably about 30 years old. But when the can looks good, that's the first criteria. Then you open the can up and you sniff it. And if you don't smell acetic acid like vinegar, if it doesn't smell like vinegar, then it's probably good because powder has a kind of a sweetish smell to it. And this still has. So I felt pretty confident about using the H110 from 30 years ago. The final criteria is when you pour the powder out and you look at it, the powder looks nice and grayish and uniform, and it has some darkness in there, but it's all a very uniform, healthy color for powder. And you don't see any discoloration, you don't see any clumping, you don't see any kind of anything that's abnormal. Now contrast that with this big jug of Reloader 12. And I'm sorry to report that if you look at this can, it's all corroded on top. Rusty, dusty. And then when you look at the bottom of the can actually has holes and perforations in it, and the previous owner had put tape to try and repair that can. That is not a good sign. Plus, look at all the corrosion on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's actually rusted on the bottom. And when you open that up, sure enough, you can smell vinegar. It smells acid. But the final kicker is, you see the brownish tinge, and then you see the clumps. That is very bad powder. You would not want to use powder that has this kind of appearance. Now, this is not to say that you have some powders that have red dots in them or green dots in them or blue dots in them. That's normal. But brown dots like this and clumps is not. The best way to dispose of old unusable powders or bad powders is to put it into the dirt and then create a little trail of gunpowder, light it and let it burn. Or some people say just mix it into the dirt and bury it because it'll make fertilizer. Whatever, those are ways to get rid of old powders, but I'm going to keep this can because it's handy to show what bad powder looks like. But if you have old powders and you're not sure about the usability of them, go ahead and cut your charges from reloading manuals and test the powder to see how they burn and how they perform. If they perform okay, they're fine. Notice that these Magnum loads that I used the H110 in, let's get that in focus. We worked nicely up to a maximum charge of H110 in the 357 Magnum case and 125 grain jacketed bullet. And notice that the primer signs are healthy pressure, but in no way is it overpressure. This is 22 grains, compressed charge, and performed just the way it was supposed to. Extraction was good. All the signs that we look for in a good pressure load were there, and so we're happy using the H110. Safe to use even though it's 30 years old. But make no mistake, I'm glad to get the Longshot powder. It's a good powder, and it's not as slow burning as H110, so the velocities will not be quite as high, but it's still a Magnum powder in all regards, and I can use it for almost all of my pistol loading, so it's a very versatile powder as well. Most shotgun powders are very versatile. They can be used for handgun loading also. So all of you shooters and reloaders out there, take care. See you in the next video. Bye for now.